Welcome back to the Metro on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham. Now, Detroit has come a long way under Mayor Mike Duggan. The city demolished thousands of blighted homes, restored basic services like streetlights and garbage pickup to residents, and transformed downtown. The city has reported record lows in homicides and its first population increase in decades. That's to say that Detroit has experienced upward momentum since declaring bankruptcy over a decade ago. At the same time, challenges remain. Residents are struggling to afford a place to live. Detroit students are not keeping pace with the rest of the state, and many longtime Detroit residents do not feel included in the city's transformation. So now that Duggan is running for governor, where do we go from here? Come November, Detroit residents will decide who among them will lead the city into its next chapter. 10 candidates say they have a path forward. Todd Perkins is one of them. Perkins is an attorney and the founder and owner of the Perkins Law Group. He is trying to be the next mayor of Detroit. Todd Perkins, welcome to the Metro.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I am I'm ecstatic about this opportunity. I am ecstatic what can happen in the city of Detroit. And it is, but what you don't want to have is potential that's unused.
And so why do you want to be the city's next mayor?
Well, it's a calling. It's, as some people say in the ecclesiastic community or ecumenical community, they say it's an assignment. And my understanding or my position is being a man for others. As a student at U of D High School, the Jesuit tradition, it's men for others, or men or women for others. And it's a call of service. And at this point in my career, the city has been so great to me. This is a return of that to the city. And also, it's just, I tell people, and I don't say this arrogantly, I say it fairly confidently, that if you take the sum total of the experiences and the expertise that all of the other candidates have and wrap them up, they don't come close to what I have to offer as far as what is needed for the city to run the city, to move the city forward, and to move it in the direction that everybody knows it can go. It's just almost like you see off in the distance where you could be, and you're struggling to get there. And I think that's what I see this city as.
A lot of people have been talking about that. We're at a transitional point right now in the city of Detroit. We can go either way. We can go multiple ways. But we are at a point of change within the city of Detroit. You can feel that. But I do want to ask you about some of those things that you were talking about that set you apart from some of the other candidates, okay. The experience that you said you have combined. Talk about some of the experiences that you have that would make you the best mayor.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a lawyer. And we are dealing, whether it be with Lansing, and most significantly right now, or most prominently right now, we're dealing with Washington, D.C., we are dealing in a significantly potentially constitutionally challenged times. You have to know what direction you need to take. Obviously, you're going to build a team that's going to help you to get there, but you have to be the steward of that ship. You can't, as you're giving direction, in giving instruction, you might need some of the details from those people on your team, but you need to know. Some of the candidates absolutely don't know. They don't have the experience. They don't have the education. They don't have the understanding of what to grasp in this situation. Because I'm an individual that deals with facts. Let's talk about a fact. Fact is, the Midwesterner said that Detroit is the second least favorable city to raise a family in the United States, behind Memphis. Fact is that, we may have lower numbers in homicides, but even James Craig, who was the former chief of police who's running, he acknowledges those numbers are sort of, I won't say at the time that we're recording and comparing these numbers, we had a city of 1.5 million people. We have a city of 650,000 at best right now. And so when you look at that comparative analysis, do we have the lowest murder rate in 50 years or 55 years? Technically, yes. In actuality, no. So those are the things that I need to understand. We have an illiteracy rate that's unacceptable. I mean, the state of Michigan is not doing well educationally. But Detroit is beyond, is further than that.
We're definitely going to get to a question about that coming up just in a little moment, because I definitely want to get to that question with a little bit more context there. But you're saying that we haven't really resolved the homicide rate. What would you do about the crime rate right now?
Well, as a lawyer, I know both sides. I am the city attorney currently in Inkster. I was a former city attorney in Highland Park. I am actually a as-needed counsel for the Detroit City Council, so I know government. I know how police departments operate. I know and worked with city administrations, and not only just in those cities, but we've worked for various different other municipalities, including Detroit Public Schools. So you use that experience, and on the other side, the people who fall victim to, maybe not the best word to use, but victim to the system. I definitely know that. I've been doing that 28 years as well, or going on 29 years. So I understand what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is we can no longer have one size fits all the entire city of policing. There needs to be a community component to policing. There needs to be a community investment in policing. And it needs to work both ways. So when the police knock on your door, they don't knock as a stranger. They knock as an individual who's there to do what they've said they've done, is to protect and serve. We've seen an awful lot of body cams over the years in which people have been denigrated, demeaned, and they're the people that call for help. And people, that is unacceptable if we're there to provide people who are in need of help.
So I'm thinking about right now, we've had conversations with Todd Perkins, Chief of Police in the city of Detroit, and some of the things that he's been promoting and pushing for, and also advocating community policing within the neighborhoods. And we do have more social workers out on the blocks, and we have a lot more attention directed towards mental health and things like that. So what are you suggesting that will be different than what's happening right now? Or are you asking to add more to that?
Well, you're definitely going to have to add more of that. Todd Perkins is going to be the chief of police for the next 9 months. That this is a sea change in which you are revamping the department. You're going to need more police officers in order. Whenever you do change, and a massive change, and not only that, it's a cultural change within the police department that has to take place, so that the cultural change in their relationship and understanding with the community will change. That's has to happen. So you need more people, you need more professionals, and to the extent we have social workers in the police station, we have to credit former Chief of Police James White, who's now the head of DWIN, and the mental health organization. Mm-hmm. And I especially look forward to having a partnership with DWIN and using those services to expand those services, because they have the budget to do it, and we're going to have to make those alliances, because again, we're a city that's going to have to do more with less. We know this. Again, I deal in facts, not promises to people, not all those other things. The only promise I can give to the citizens is, one, I have trained myself and I've been trained for this day. Second, that I will work all my tireless hours. I can't promise the outcome as a lawyer. I'm ethically bound and duty bound not to provide something or promise something that I can't know that I can produce. And so the same way, and it's unfortunate in politics, you just say things and, people will bite on it. It's like internet clickbait, and so I can't do that as a lawyer. I can't do that as a human being. And Shirley and William Perkins have not raised me to do that. Mm-hmm. So truth sometimes hurts, but it's the best panacea to this problem that we have.
You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET Detroit Public Radio. My guest is Todd Perkins. He is an attorney, the founder and owner of the Perkins Law Group, and he is running to be the next mayor of Detroit. We're currently discussing his plans for the city and its residents if he is elected mayor of Detroit. I'm Tia Graham. Now, continuing on our line of questioning, Todd, as an attorney for over 2 decades, how has your experience in the courtroom prepared you to be mayor?
Well, you have to make decisions that are quick. You have to make decisions and also live with the decisions that you make and make them better for the client. The idea of being in that courtroom and being, it's almost, I look at it and I put it in my head, and I frame this in my head, that the city of Detroit is my client. The residents of the city of Detroit are my clients. So I am duty bound and ethically bound to do the best I can for them and to be forthright and transparent. So in the courtroom, that form of engagement, people are not used to. It's almost just, it is the, imagine boxing with words. And that's what you're doing. And you have to be accustomed to doing that. It's not something that you learn overnight. I believe that I had some level of intuitive skill before I even got to that. Maybe that's what drew me to the practice of law. But the form of engagement that you have and the understanding of what decisions that have to be made in short periods of time that an administrator or that an executive has to do. Again, I'm the only self-made CEO who's running. Only self-made CEO who's built something from nothing. So that courtroom is just, it's hard to explain, but it is magic when it happens.
And it's hard to even for me to think right now because we're getting down to the end of our conversation already, which is amazing to me. But, the last administration inherited a city that was struggling financially and failing to provide some of its basic services to the residents. What kind of city will the next mayor be inheriting? And in what direction will you, if elected, lead the city? We're talking about this moment that we're in the city of Detroit where a lot of us can feel this change, the shift that's happening. You can go in any direction. So, if elected, how do you see the city moving forward?
Well, let's talk about Duggan had a nice run as far as money that got infused from either Lansing, $1 billion from there, and over $1 billion from the federal government over his 12-year tenure. And that helped shore up the budget. We can't expect that, and we don't want to live in that idea of doing that. So, again, I use that term, we're going to have to do more with less. First and foremost, we're going to have to make sure that our basic necessities continue to be met. That's public safety, education, economic development, and affordable housing. And after that, you have there are 13 other points or 13 points in the Perkins plan, but they all fall under those 4 basic needs because that's what we have to have. Underneath that in economic development, or you say affordable housing, you also have water as a necessity, water as a human right, and figuring those things out. So you're going to have to create relationships with the corporate world and the nonprofit world that benefit the citizens of the city of Detroit. Also, you're going to have to align yourself with Wayne County. Wayne County is looking to more partnerships with the city of Detroit because so goes Detroit, so goes everything in the state of Michigan, particularly Wayne County.
Now let's turn to housing pretty quickly. Over half of renters in the city are cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. How do you plan to provide more affordable housing for residents? And we have about 30 seconds for this response.
Well, okay, affordable housing is absolutely key. You also have to think about low-income housing, and you also have to think about market rate housing. But affordable housing, you're going to have to create, like I said, I don't need this just generally tongue-in-cheek, but we only have about 15 more seconds, is the public-private partnership component in there to make sure that there's ceilings on rents. But also, we don't want to hurt the landlords either. We don't want to be a landlord-averse community. But at the same time, that has to happen. And growth of our economy is the underlying factor. Giving people work that's meaningful. Giving people work that are careers, not just paycheck to paycheck. And that's what's really essential in this particular community. So it's a comedy of all different things that have to work all in conjunction, kind of like in the courtroom.
Todd Perkins is an attorney and the founder and owner of Perkins Law Group. He is running to be the next mayor of the city of Detroit. Todd, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Perkins is currently polling 5th among the mayoral candidates in the latest survey by the Glenn Gariff Group. The poll was commissioned by WDIV-TV and the Detroit News. The primary election is August 5th. The top 2 vote getters will move on to the general election in November. And of course, we will continue to bring you conversations with candidates as the race progresses. The Metro spoke with 3 other candidates. To hear those conversations, head on over to WDET.org. Coming up, if you're afraid to fly right now, you are not alone. Last week, an Air India flight en route from the country to London crashed, killing at least 290 people. We'll revisit a conversation we had in March with a former pilot and aviation historian. This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation. And this is The Metro. You all stay right there.